Well, hello everyone. You have here talk about for Made in America. What does Made in America pretty much mean? Like it means is to the products and other your resources that are produced here in the United States, right? And in other words, people might even say too that it's another way of how you want to cause as to where that companies that make that bring that they're manufacturing, and also other products that are made in USA, that sort of saying. But how many of us are really going to maybe think as to where that you go ahead and start a conversation like that and want to know too that really what does made in America pretty much mean? People might say is to where another way of how you want to cause is to where the American products that we find that we use each and every day. And so I have right here. This right here is some of my Photoshop work right here that I was putting together right here, and it's showing right here, everybody, that right here is with me right here, and like everybody might say, is to where you go ahead and start out with an actual photograph, or maybe a draw an example right here, and like people might say is that ways of how you want to describe made in America. And the way I painted this right here, it looks almost like if I just woke up, while I was resting, while you were sleeping, that you wake up one afternoon or one morning, and then you're gonna notice that I'm like, that maybe if you're still in your pajamas, but then also that you look so cute in that outfit or something like that. So like somebody might say something like that to where that the way I painted this right here is like, is that right there supposed to be me right there? So so how many of us are really going to maybe think as to where that you come up to these moments to where made in America. So you get up one morning, if it's going to maybe be a Friday or a Saturday morning, you get up one morning and you think about these moments a lot of times, and you're one or two that if you worked really hard, and then what was your favorite moment in time? And people might say that can time really be measured by looking at the American flag like that? But still, that so every time you think about this, and you're one toward made in America, you tell people the story about that to where that made in America mean is toward okay. Does that mean that it was this right here was your idea that a lot of companies really came appealing to a lot of the other opinions about what you thought about something? And so like let's just say that if you were promoted for a job or something like that, then somebody's going to maybe say is to where that you wake up one morning and somebody's going to say that they're going to ask you to read it, read something. They're going to ask you to, all you really need to do for this job or to get that promotion is all you really need to do is just produce some of this. And I'm like, if you're familiar with that, and all, like, any source of attention really, but still. But I put this together right here, talk about for true important rules right here. So I'm like, talk about the truth and trust right here. So you have right here, I talk about the American flag right here, but like people might say that the first thing that you think about whenever you are going to be working on something is that, for how much time that you really need just to be able to work on something. And like everybody else might even say is to where that, you might think is toward, oh, really, that the first thing that you think about whenever you're going to be working on something is going to be is toward it, 50 minutes or something like that. 50 minutes. Well, what does that necessarily mean? I could put down here on the bottom right here, talk about for 50 minutes. And so it's like, so every time you think about that, and at 102, that, really, what source of work could you really get done in 50 minutes? 50 minutes, and so that would that be like maybe 500 seconds or something like that? So every time you think about that, then you're warned to where that if you just woke up or something like that, And like everybody says, to where that the time recorded and let's just say that the first thing that you think about when we're talking about Made in America is talking about is toward anything anything that you may have mentioned from earlier, something like yeah, talk about for okay, and so really, every time you do think about that, and want to know too that the things that you hear about whenever you do get in these conversations a lot of times, and want to know too is that okay, yeah, that you get into these conversations a lot of times, and people might say is that okay, yeah, that you start reading, and then somebody starts talking about something, and maybe about anything that they would really highly recommend, or maybe anything that they can improve and all that. But still, so if you were to take time to read, like everybody might say, is to where that whenever you're talking about Made in America, that that pretty much means is to where that a lot of those resources that are produced, that come from the United States, that come from America, right? But like everybody might say, is to where what do you really call it whenever you develop your own ideas, whenever you come up with your own ideas, and any suggestions that you have, and people would say is to where if you actually study and for bringing for that hard work home, and so somebody might say that yeah, well really that whenever you were to be working on something, and let's just say that if you were to be telling somebody about how something works, or maybe give them maybe a suggestion about how something works, and maybe just to be able to better improve those resources, right? And people might say is to where you look at that Made in America being something like that, but still. But I'll also say right here, talk about yeah, you just wake up, so like let's just say that while you were working, and like everybody might think is toward it, do you think that most jobs are kind of like that? Do you think about is to where that if you worked really hard enough to where that you wind up dozing off to sleep, like one afternoon, that let's just say that if you woke up yeah, one of these days, if you worked hard enough to where that a lot of the resources that you were working on, right, that they start working. A lot of the work starts working on its own. The harder you work on it. So like a lot of times, it sure seems that way. That every time you think about that, and you're wondering, well, really, what does that really mean? And so you look at a painting like this right here, right, and you're wondering to where that if you were to try to put that into like any sort of sentence, right, and 102 try to explain to everybody about how is it that knowing that the work that you were doing right from earlier, and at 102 that the work that you were doing from earlier, but people might say that yeah, you go ahead and paint this right here, and you paint this right here is like if it's going to look like something like that if you woke up one morning, and maybe if you weren't feeling very well or something like that, you woke up one morning and you weren't feeling very well, and that you were 102 that yeah, that so it's like so every time you do think about that in 102 that yeah, you just woke up and found that you're like yeah, can you read this you read this so you read so nice, and so in case of anybody that may want to know too that really like if you would actually wake up one morning, and let's just say that if somebody was to be really nice to you and says to where can you read this to me, or that yeah, do you even know what this says right here? So it sure seems like yeah, talking about when we're talking about anything that kind of catches our attention, especially, and you want to know too, but still that but talk about for Made in America right here. But yeah, you wake up one morning, and then like yeah, somebody says yeah, you read so nice right here, being so nice, and so a lot of times like yeah, so it's like so whenever I was painting this right here, I was actually a lot of things that I was thinking about 102s toward it when we're talking about Made in America, right? And 102 that what exactly is it that maybe people are thinking about whenever if somebody were to be I'm like, yeah, back whenever you were younger, that you were actually be thinking about these moments to where that back whenever you were very young, that the things that you like, yeah, you were still in your pajamas, while you had your favorite pillow or something like that. You had your favorite storybook or something like that with you or something like that. So like everybody might say that whenever you were very young, yeah, back whenever you were very young, that the things that you were, the things that you liked doing whenever you were young, but like everybody say that, do most of your parents really remember you waking up those couple mornings as to where that if you just woke up one morning or so and one note as to where that yeah that if you just woke up or something like that, or like everybody say that yeah, especially if you oversleep, if you were a little bit late getting up one morning or something like that, and people might say is to where what's that look that you usually have on your whenever you first wake up, and it's like yeah, that type of look is to where yeah, well, whenever you first wake up from a long nap or something like that, you're not fully awake, and so it's like you're 102 that yeah, you're not really you're not fully awake to where you can really understand and knowing, just to be able to concentrate on all the work, that would need to be done or something like that, or you woke up not feeling very well, and so that's why it seems like that, that every time you think about that, yeah, made in America, every time you might think about made in America, it's going to maybe remind you of these moments as to where these moments in time to where that, yeah, that knowing about it, that, if you wake up one morning and let's just say if you are, off track with something, or maybe if you're trying to follow up with anything that was going on from earlier, and you're 102, yeah, made in America. What do you think that story pretty much means when we do speak about made in America? And somebody might say is to where it pretty much means is to where that you made it yourself. Yeah, it was made homemade or something like that. You want to call it as like homemade, or maybe something that you decide to share with some of your coworkers or something like that. So each time I think about this, I kept thinking too, yeah. So whenever you do think about this work of art right here, you might be thinking about, yeah, that maybe puzzle pieces, or maybe model airplanes or something like that, or maybe something something that you made at home that you want to show to a few of your friends or something like that. So it's like yeah. So every time you think about made in America, though, that you might be thinking is toward okay, yeah, that means that back whenever you were very young, back whenever you were even too young, really even to work, there are a lot of things that you thought about that you want to do. Whenever I grow up one of these days, these are the things that I want to do and all that. And so one of those things, of course, would probably be like people might say is toward yeah, that you want to be creative and you want to try to go ahead and do an experiment to where that you want to see how much progress that you want to make whenever it comes to working on something. And so like everybody says to where you go ahead and work on to where you go ahead and draw a picture of something like based on like yeah, you look at that kiddo picture that you took, and like let's just say that this was supposed to be an example of like anybody might say that yeah, that right there, that's me right there. So like let's just say that people might say that you go ahead and start out this story by saying is to where that yeah, that's me right there. Yeah, well that's me. So yeah, so it's like so every time you do start talking, you get into a conversation, right? And you're 102, yeah, that is me right there. Yeah, that's me. And people might say, well, really, that if you can, just put "that's me" right there, and that's me. Put a comma right there. That's me, and yeah, that's me right there, and so it sure seems that way. That yeah. So if you would actually get into any sorts of conversation, with anybody really, and let's just say that if you were to say, that's me right there, and knowing that I'm like, yeah. So it's like, so every time you do start talking about something and want to know too that, yeah, that, so I'm like, I'm just going to go ahead and, yeah, right here. That, yeah, you wake up one morning, you read so nice, and so yeah, you start a conversation with somebody, and people might want to know too that, to where that, yeah, that why is it that people might even want to know too? Somebody starts talking to you, and it sure seems that way. That yeah, you get into this conversation where like, and I know exactly. Yeah, I know it. Yeah, that's not even spelled, but anyway, I know exactly what you mean. So it sure seems that way that whenever you're going to be working on something for sure, right? Whenever you're going to be working on something, that if you're going to be if you're going to be showing somebody something for sure, that it's like yeah, you wake up one morning, and let's just say that people might say that if you let's just say that if you were yeah, if you weren't feeling good one morning or something like that, but people might say that really what is your impression a lot of times whenever you do wake up one morning, maybe from a nap or something like that, and you're 102 that, the reason why, I'm like, yeah, that, you look at these moments right here and you're 102 that, yeah, made in America. You used to always think as to where that, made in America pretty much meant is to where that you find it in America and then you ordered it in America and then you bought it in America, right? But how many of us are really going to maybe think as toward it, yeah, homemade, or that you thought about that, you thought about it yourself, at your own time that this is what you were working on. Yeah, I did it myself, and so it sure seems that way that yeah, so it's like so whenever you do think about made in America, a lot of times people might say is toward it, yeah, did you do that yourself? Yeah, did you do that yourself? And so if somebody were to maybe think about that a lot of times, and people might say as to where, are you really going to impress somebody whenever you do say something like as to where that, did you do that yourself? And with the question mark right there. So if you're going to be looking at any sorts of conversations or any sorts of advertisements or anything like that, then people want to know too is to where that, really, that if you were to try to explain to anybody, the story about what you were working on for sure, and at 102 is to where, how do you think that you would really want to start the conversation? And people might say is to where that, well, really, that, yeah, I was asleep, and people might even say too that, how do you usually, answer that question toward about the fact about people might say if you were working hard one afternoon or maybe yeah working hard one night or maybe that morning if you were working maybe for 5 or maybe 10 hours total working on something if you were working hard maybe all week on something and somebody's going to maybe say is toward yeah you worked real hard on something and you wound up falling asleep, while you were working. And like everybody might say, is to where that, do you think that anybody would look at that as to where made in America? Made in America. Made in America pretty much means, and I guess everybody might say, is to where that, really, do you really have to be asleep, while you're working? Do I have to, yeah, do I have to go to sleep do I have to go to sleep, just to be able to get a lot of everybody else's attention right here? It's like everybody else might say that, really, how people might even say, yeah, a number of times that they've experienced that, how really, how embarrassing really would that be? That if you were working really hard, maybe for that during that morning or maybe during that afternoon, and you wind up dozing off to sleep. You wind up, focusing on something else, going into a daydream or something like that. And people might say is to where you start working on something, and it's like you start focusing on something else, and so it's like people might say is to where that's not really called working. That's not called working. So a lot of times it's like well, while you're working on something, but still it's like people might say that that you go ahead and include this right here. This right here is supposed to be an image right here that you sketched based on the moment in time, for what you were working on, and then you include like maybe a page right here on the side right here that explains about what this activity right here is all about. So it's like every time you think about that, and you want to know too, made in America means that those products were produced here in the United States, and for those resources for the company that they can get from the person. So it's like, so every time you think about that, then 102, that, could Made in America also be known as toward it, people that you hire for the job, and it knowing that you receive training, you receive resources by the people who have a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience and knowing about, the work that they do based on the products that are produced, right? And, so every time you think about that, and you're 102, that back whenever you were younger, though, that you used to always think as toward it, what does going to sleep while you're at work pretty much mean? Well, that means that you were sleeping, right? But could that also mean as to where that people can actually see something that you've been working on? And how many of us really want to look at it that way, to where that while you were sleeping, that you have somebody that's going to see and realize something that you were working on? And how often is that really the case, to where that while you were working on something, that somebody can see what you were working on, and they see how important that is? So it's like, so it's like, so every time you do think about that, they're like, made in America, right? And then you may think as to where So it's like, so every time you think about that, and you're 102, that, the things that you were working on in 102, that you come up to these moments to where that you wake up one morning, and maybe somebody's giving you all this attention, and maybe they're asking you for a favor or something like that, or to read this, and the first impression that you might have is to where that, well, why can't you do that? Or, why are you asking me to do that? Well, number one, they might even tell you that, well, because you're good at it, or something like that. Or, well, we know your work very well, and that's why we're asking you to take care of this. And so that's why it seems like, do I have to be do I have to go to sleep? Do I have to be asleep? So while you were working on something, while you were working very hard on something, it seems like everybody might say is toward it. It seems like that, to where that you really you work hard enough to where that you wind up dozing off to sleep, and you wake up one morning and you'll just be surprised, right? Just by knowing that you got a message back about that job opportunity, or that somebody got back to you about something that you were working on from earlier. So every time you think about the American flag right here, and people might say is toward it, really, the first thing that you think about is that, whenever you do think about any sort of big job, really, is that really, that, the first impression that you may have thought about is that, it's going to take you maybe 5 weeks just to be able to do that. that's going to take more time. That's going to take more time. But really, though, that if somebody were to be looking at an image like this right here, and they might say is to where that, why do you keep thinking, why do you keep saying it's going to take more time whenever half the work is already done? So it sure seems that way that, one way that we can think about Made in America is also going to be about is to where, yeah, half of the work is already done. All you have to do is just present it. And so it's like, yeah, so whenever we think about Made in America, though, it's like the study for what brings the work at your home, for what works, right? But your 102 is toward it, do you want to think about the work that you were working on is toward it, yeah, people can actually see the work in progress, right? And 102 is that, if you want to kind of look at this is toward it, yeah, the way you put this drawing right here, together right here using Photoshop, right? And 102 is that, yeah, that back whenever you were younger, of course, it was like, your parents had that impression toward it, you wake up one morning and everybody's all so polite and nice to you for what reason? I'm like, well, it's because you look so cute, getting out of bed like that, in your pajamas, and you look so cute in that outfit or something like that. So like everybody might even say that you come up to these moments back whenever you were younger, is to where you look so cute, dressed like that, or sitting on that blanket right there, and with those socks and shoes on like that. So it's like so every time you think about that, you think about these moments though, and you 102 that I talk about for the natural hair right there, and I know that that's something that my parents told me too a couple of times, is that you got to you remember back whenever you were about 4 or 5, you had that natural look right there, and knowing about what your favorite outfit, the things, your parents might tell you that's what you look like. Maybe during the Friday and Saturday mornings, you woke up out of bed and you were thinking as to where those couple mornings whenever you were not feeling very well, those couple mornings that you weren't toward what's the first impression that your parents would tell you? Number one, it's like, why are you being, I'm like, yeah. So it's like, so it sure seems that way that every time you think about that in 102, that, you wake up one morning and 10 that, people are going to be so nice and polite to you, and thinking as to where that, really, what's the nice treatment all about and all that, but still, people might say is toward it, yeah, it sure seems that way that one way that you can be recognized for your hard work for sure is knowing is to where that, do you really, like people might say is to where that, whenever you do go to sleep after working real hard at, from that night or something like that, or like everybody says that while you were working that you wind up going to sleep while you were working, and how is that recognized? By the people that know you, by your coworkers, right? By the people that know your work the best. Whenever if you work really hard enough to the point where you wind up dozing off to sleep, really, what does that really show everybody? And people might say is to where that, well, really, it's a little bit embarrassing the way you think about it. It's pretty embarrassing the way you think about it, but still. But every time you think about that, and yeah, it's like talk about for embarrassing. What is so embarrassing about that? Well, really, that number one, you're trying to show somebody something. You're trying to show somebody something, and whenever something goes wrong, for sure, and like everybody say that, you worked hard on something to the point where you wind up laying down and dozing off to sleep, and people want to know too that, really, whenever you're sleeping, you're not really working. You're resting, or whenever you you get tired enough. You get so tired that you end up dozing off to sleep. But it sure seems that way. That those cutest moments. By the way, people might say that those cutest moments seem to be bringing back a lot of those memories, right? And so every time you think about these moments in time, and you're 102, that really, what does that really tell anybody whenever you do think about these moments? Whenever you think about these cute moments, the cutest moments, and people might say is toward, yeah, those moments, of course, are going to show somebody something. And a lot of times it's like, yeah, you wake up one morning and 102 that you may feel like working on it, or you may not feel like working on it one morning. But at the same time, it's like, really, what do these moments really going to tell you? And for any reason at all, that you may wake up one morning and not want to work, but then people might say is to where that really, how do you know whenever your work is halfway done, or people can actually see and realize the things that you're working on? And that is why it seems like that talk about for Made in America, right? That for really the work that you are working on, are you trying to get that really to communicate from who looks at it, and for how it approaches somebody's idea, for what exactly is it that you're thinking about whenever you look at this right here? So it's like, yeah, so every time you think about Made in America right here, you might think it's toward, yeah, I think about the American flag. I think about the American flag whenever I speak about Made in America. And I was also thinking, too, that you tell people a story, right? You tell people a story about back whenever you were very younger, right? But how many of us are really going to tell the story about that, that whenever you wake up one morning not feeling very well, and the first thing that you think about is that, yeah, you're going to go ahead and cancel your plans for that, for that day, for the today, just because you weren't feeling very well. And so it sure seems that way. That really, how if you weren't feeling very well, for sure, like everybody might say that how many of us have thought about that, to where that your work would be recognized and talked about for Made in America, knowing that yeah, the work is still going to be able to be in progress, right? Like how much progress do you think that you'll be able to make while you were sleeping, or maybe that while you were recovering, maybe while you had to be absent from work or something like that. So it's like, yeah, so it's like for how you're recognized, right? So it's like so every time you think about that, and you're always 102, is toward it the things that you were working on. The things that you were working on, and it's going to remind you of these moments. And like people might say that, yeah, while you were working on something, and while you were trying to listen to something, that your mind just kind of pauses for the first few seconds. And you're always, well, I'm like, yeah, talk about a recap, right? Whenever you got a lot going on, for sure, you're going to have like a mind recap, to where it takes you about maybe 10 or maybe 20 seconds just to be able to remember and recall all the things that you were working on, all the things that you were trying to remember, what you were trying to say earlier. And so that's why it seems like everybody says to where that every time you do think about these moments, is to where you go ahead and draw a picture, and maybe paint a picture, or maybe if you're going to go ahead and think about maybe any sorts of infographic or something like that of something. And 102, that blanket that you used to have, or something like that. The American flag, the American flag quilt or something like a quilt or a blanket or something like that. So people might say that, yeah, the thing. I'm like, yeah, but this painting right here actually reminds me just a little bit of like picture day. That if your parents wanted you to sit in front of the camera right there and want to get a picture of you while you were getting ready to study or something like that, people might say that, yeah, do you think do you think that that's something like that would be look good right there for like any sort of logo design right there? While you were working, while you were painting that, and people want to know too that this right here was supposed to be an example right here of a logo design. You go ahead and do like a logo design, of an app or something like that, and people might say that, yeah, this right here is supposed to be like an example right here of a photograph right there of you whenever you were younger, the way that you were dressed and everything, and you were like, yeah, with the American flag style blanket and maybe like a little background right there, the American flag right there. And what you're trying to show everybody and tell everybody is that, yeah, you talk about a story about that, maybe if it was during a job interview or anything else that you were working on, is that your proposal in front of the camera is this to where that, yeah, if you just woke up one morning and somebody was asking you to go ahead and get into the picture so that we can get a picture done, or maybe to ask you to do a presentation for them or something like that. So it sure seems that way that, do you want to look at that as to where that Made in America means is to where that moments that somebody asks you to be, moments that people ask you to be a part of, knowing is to where that they know you work very well, and knowing that based on the work that you were doing with one of your friends of yours or a cousin or something like that. So it's like, so every time you think about Made in America, that do you think about is that to where that the company that recognizes the work that you do based on from what you did together as a team, right? So it's like every time you think about that, and you'll want to know too that really the company, yeah, we would not really be where we are as of today if we would not have hired that person, for the job. And like people might say that, yeah, top up for salary, right? And so it sure seems that way that, top up for salary and also promotions and everything. But it sure seems that way that when we do speak about Made in America a lot of times, that you're thinking is toward it really. The work that you can get done within 5 minutes or maybe within 15 minutes or something like that. And also that talking about for products made in America. So I have right here is this design right here. Talk about for the colors for the red, white, and blue right here. But if we actually look at this really carefully right here, and people might say is to where that every time you talk about a story like that, and do you think that the first thing that you want to say is that well, hey, that's me right there. Yeah, that's me right there. I'm looking at the camera right there, and half the time I'm just, I'm just waking up from that morning, and I'm still trying to realize what all that's going on, and yeah. So it's like you wake up one morning, and people are talking to you, and maybe if all they ask you to do is look at, is to go ahead and allow this person to hug you and to be able to take a picture, you get ready for a picture or something like that. So like let's just say that there's going to be a moment in a time to where that there's going to be a picture right here, but then somebody's going to say that if all you really need to do just to be able to be recognized, of course, is to be ready to have your picture taken, and of course, like so yeah. So every time you think about that, then you want to know too that how many of us are really going to maybe think about that to where that you get up one morning and then you're just surprised just by that all that special treatment, knowing that somebody fixed you breakfast, or maybe if you got a special package, you received a special gift, a special package or something like that. Something that you've been waiting to be able to receive, something like that. So it's like, yeah, so you want to look at Made in America maybe just a little bit like that, to where it's, if you've been waiting patiently for something, and knowing that people give you the special treatment and all that, but really, people might say is that anybody might say that do you really have to be asleep just for a lot of that, like, yeah, just for this idea to work or something like that. So people might say that, yeah, while you were resting at this, that gives this person enough time just to be able to work out the details, just to be able to process your information, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's why every time you think about that, and people might say is to where that if you're going to be napping, if you're going to be resting that afternoon or something like that, and people might say that yeah, while you were in your pajamas, we went ahead and cleaned we went ahead and did this favor for you or something like that, or we went ahead and took care of this for you, and so yeah. So do we want to look at that Made in America, right? Do we want to kind of look at Made in America as another way of saying is to we're talking about favors, and if you want to look at it that way, to where that yeah, favors. Your favors meaning is to where yeah, a step forward, an automatic step forward, and that so every time you think about that in the 102, that yeah, every time you do think about that, and like, yeah, you don't even have, like, you can go and write that in a separate sentence, or like, if you want, but still, I know it. I'm just trying to, but so every time you think about that in year 102, that Made in America, could that possibly mean is to wear favors, favors that you're willing to do something for somebody, and then you're talking about for the step forward right here, and knowing about, like, yeah, you just woke up and like, yeah, you just woke up from a nap while you were dreaming, and at 102 is toward all that hard work that you put into something, and at 102 that yeah, some of that work has already been done for you. It's already been done for you. And so, like, let's just say that, yeah, already it's already been done. Yeah, you go ahead and start out the sentence by saying something like that. And so whenever you do it, I'm like, yeah, so like everybody might say that, really, how often is that really the case? Well, I guess a lot of that has to do with it. Is it because of the hard work that you put into something, or is it over the fact that, do you really have to be asleep? Do you really have to be resting while you're allowing your team or anybody that you're working with, you're allowing them to where they come? Like, so yeah, so it's like, so every time you do think about that, and you're always 102, that you may talk about these moments to where that while you were at work at some point, yeah, you were recovering from after being sick over the weekend, maybe with the flu or something like that, or you weren't feeling good that afternoon, maybe if you had a headache or something like that. So like everybody say that if you've been sick those couple of days or something like that, that yeah, it's already been done right here. And so every time you think about Made in America, though, do you want to kind of, like, yeah, like any sorts of paid absence or something like that? So you might think about that Made in America, like everybody might think, is to where it really, and like it really means that that a lot of those resources are produced in the United States, right? And so yeah, you want to look at it that way, to where that when we do speak of Made in America, it's a lot about those resources. Those resources are produced here in America, and produced here in the United States, and that is why that when we think about that when we think about a lot of those resources are made here in the United States, produced here in America. But then, do you want to look at that also to where that, that based on the work that you were doing, that, while you were resting, that the last time, that some of that work has already been taken care of for you. That I'm like, yeah. So every time you do think about that, and you're always want to know too, that how often is that really the case to where that the work, some of the work has already been done. All you have to do is just verify to make sure that everything is all correct, or if anything, wait to have your picture taken or something like that. And so you come up to these favorite moments, right? You come up to these favorite moments, and 102 is to where that every time you think about that, then you're thinking is toward it really. Everybody might say that you've heard that before too. That whenever you're going to be working, whenever you're going to be working a job, almost everybody else is going to say is to where that almost every job is going to tell you that you need to read the instructions, the directions, the requirements. You need to read the instructions, the requirements, and so that's what almost everybody else is really going to say, right? Almost everybody else is going to say that, hey, you need to read the instructions. You need to read the requirements, follow the rules and follow the requirements, right? And so a lot of times, like everybody else is going to say that, but it's like but let's just say that like everybody might say is that really that the work and study made in America, knowing that the work that is required is going to require feedback by somebody. And let's just say that, like people might say that, a feedback is the requirement, means to where that means is to where, why don't you listen to the person speaking based on, that American citizen, the person who, the person who was working on that assignment or something like that. So like every time you do think about that in your 102, that we're talking about the person, right? We're talking about that individual. We're talking about that citizen right there. And like people might say, if it's going to be about a disability, or if it's going to be about, anything about, retirement or anything, but still, tougher for Made in America, knowing that you are recognized for that reason. For what? Like, well, really, that you look at a lot of this work right here, and people might say, you go ahead and look at those pictures, and you go ahead and paint, and you draw a picture, right? And somebody's gonna maybe say that you go ahead and draw a picture, and back whenever you were in kindergarten, that it was over the finger painting or something like that you were working on. But it's like, so whenever you do think about Made in America, you might be thinking about, the fireworks and everything, and you might even be thinking about maybe those cutest moments, from whenever I'm like, going to those birthday parties and all that. But it's like, you might even be thinking too, as to where that, how often are you really going to be thinking about those moments to where that, you were still in your pajamas, but you woke up that morning and, your parents were asking you to wake up and we want to go ahead and get your picture taken or something like that, or a special made bowl of soup or something like that, specially made just for you or something like that. And so I'll go ahead and put right here, like everybody might say that Made in America. So people might say that, anything that kind of gets your attention for sure, right? But people might say that, me. So every time you think about Made in America, though, people might say that, is that right there? That right there? Is that right there? Is that supposed to be you? I can, that's me right there. Me. That's me right there. So every time you think about Made in America, you might think about, you might get these ideas about that, products that were made and shipped here in the United States, right? But how often are we really going to be thinking about that to where, that right there, yeah, that's me right there in that picture right there, giving a presentation, or yeah, that's me right there, while I was, working on something, that's me right there. And so every time you think about that in 102 is to where that people are going to maybe 102 at that, is that right there? Do you recognize this right here? Yeah, that's supposed to be you, right? That's your work right there. And so every time you think about made in America, could we possibly think about that is to where that, yep, that's me. Is that, I'm like, yeah, don't you think that maybe that there'll be another way of how you want to, you would like to be, you would like to be honored, you would like to be recognized for the work that you were doing. And that is why it seems like that people might say is to where that, really, that while you were working, people might say that you come up these moments to where that you wake up one morning knowing that you weren't feeling good, you weren't feeling very well that night or something like that, but people might say that that's whenever sick days and sick pay come around, but still, that every time you think about made in America, do you necessarily think about that to where that's supposed to be maybe another way of how do you want to call like a traditional holiday, to where that people look at that to where you think about the people that you used to work with, and you think about those individuals that you used to work with, and want to know about how that you're recognized for your hard work, right? Like, and yeah, that's me right there. That's me. And so every time, like me, that people might say, yeah, especially if you have a birthday on, around the 4th of July, and people want to know too that every time you do think about that and thinking as to where, yeah, that, a lot of the products and everything that, over there at work too, a lot of the products that, there might be a few products that are made in Japan or China or any country like that, or Canada or somewhere like that. But like it sure seems that way that every time you think about that, then you're warned to where that talking about the products based on, from the work that you were working on. And like, made in America. But then also that, that's, that is you, like, yeah, that's you that's in that picture right there. And so like, yeah, you look at made in America right there, you got there is the American flag. But the first thing that you think about, and I'll even tell everybody too, that I'll even include right here on the bottom right here, talk about for time. So the first thing that you think about is time, right? You think about time right here. But every time you think about time, that, really, that the first thing that you think about is that, really, who has time? Who has time really to work on this? And it's like, yeah, so every time you think about that in your 102, can time really be measured just by looking at that? I'm like, yeah, you go ahead and picture yourself working. And people might say that, if you actually were to take a picture of yourself, at least just one picture of yourself, picture yourself, at least just one image of yourself working on something. And people might say that, whenever you take one picture of you working on something, whenever you take a picture of yourself working on something, what does that really tell you necessarily? Do you look at that as time? Yeah, time can mean forever, right? But then at the same time, it's like, that's really teaching somebody something about the work that you do. And people might say that really, that, so every time you think about that, and you're 102, that, about time. And you're worried that, really, that it's really not going to take that long. And the way you think about that, maybe a lot of that work really just has to be explained a little bit more clearly to your client, like everybody thinking as to where that whenever you think about made in America, though, but still, that you think about the work that maybe, if anything, it's only going to take you maybe an hour just to be able to put this together. So it's like, yeah, so every time you think about time, Noah, that you want to go ahead and maybe put that into like maybe a picture, like into a spread right there, to where you want to go ahead and spread out the words right there in 102 that, yeah, talk about time right here. That really, what all can you really get done in 12 hours time, right? And people might say that, well, really, that the work in progress that you can really get done is known as to where, yeah, you talk about an image at about this size right here, and knowing that, really, what does that really show anybody whenever they look at that right there? Well, that right there is a picture of you, right? That's a picture right here of me right here. And let's just say that while you were working on something, yeah, you were actually cleaning your room while this picture was taken. So people might say that, really, what does this really teach anybody whenever they look at it? Well, while you were cleaning your room, you got tired and then you wind up laying down and you wind up taking a nap for a few minutes or something like that. And while you were working on something, you were putting together a puzzle, or maybe if you had a lot of your frustrations trying to figure something out. And so that's why it seems like everybody say this, to where that whenever you think about time, does time really teach you anything about those moments in time? Like back whenever you were little, that the things that you enjoyed doing and the things that you enjoyed working on and all that. But people might say that whenever you do think about your work, you might think as to where, well, really, that it's really not going to take that much time, just to be able to put this together, or just to do this, or just to do that. What it's really going to take is to where knowing that if you have a lot of people who are really interested in what that work is about and all that, and so it sure seems that way. That every time you think about time right here, that it's like really, do you really have to if somebody has to recognize what you were working on, but really, do you really have to include image or some sort of artwork showing the work that you do? Like people might say that you go ahead and include an image of you, still photograph of you working on something. You show somebody that you're working on something just by showing them a picture while you're working. Yeah, while you're working, that somebody's able to recognize the work that you were doing, and you show somebody a still photograph of what you were working on. And for sure, how often are you really going to be recognized, for Made in America? And so that's why it seems like that, everybody might say that, there are some jobs out there, to where that there are some tasks out there that's really, it's not going to take that long just to be able to do them. And some might say that, there are some jobs that it's only going to maybe take you maybe an hour to work on something, or maybe they might even tell you that really it's only going to really take you maybe 5 minutes just to do this, and all you really need to do is just read a story to somebody, read a letter to somebody. And so it's like so every time you think about that, and that maybe somebody's going to say is to where, can you read this to me and tell me what this says right here? And somebody might say, well, really, why can't you read it? Like, well, because that we know that you're good at it. We know that you're good at it, and so that's why we're asking you to go ahead and take care of that, But still, it's like, so every time you think about that, and you want to know too, that really, can time really be measured by looking at the American flag right here? But every time you think about that, and you're 102, that the things that you dreamed about having back when you were younger, though, and 102, that your ability to where you can actually work on something creative, and to where that you're able to get a little bit more attention just by all the hard work that you put into something. And people say, do people really recognize what you were working on? And so that's why it's like 12. Time for 12 hours right here. And so really, that every time you do think about any sorts of job, really, that you think about that, to where that the first impression that you think about whenever you first hear about somebody requesting something, or maybe if it is maybe about a promotion or something like that, that really there's a lot of things that you may not look forward to, but people might say that if you actually could picture, show somebody a picture of you working on something, for sure, about how much honor and how much awarding is that whenever somebody sees that, and how much of a gift of appreciation that is. Somebody actually saw you working and they actually liked what they saw, and so it's like every time you think about that, then people might say that as to where really, what are you really showing anybody whenever you're sitting there like that? You're sitting on the floor like that, sitting on the blanket like that. And 102 that if you just woke up from a nap or something like that, you were resting, you wake up one morning, and somebody says, "Hey, how you doing, cutie? Yeah, can you do this? Can you take care of this? Or I'd like to talk to you about this, or I would like for you to come to this meeting or something like that." And so really, that somebody greets you just by saying hello, how you doing, cutie, or something like that, and so every time you think about that, and you're 102, that how do you really know if somebody's giving you just a little bit too much of attention, or like anybody might say that I just really want to be a little extra nice to you, and that is why it seems like that every time you think about time, right? That do you think on average that people use that word and phrase knowing as to where you think? I think you should already know that a lot of the experts might even say that there is a difference between if you really would you can, if you really want to have it done sooner, for sure, you're trying to impress somebody with something, or you're trying to get something done, and in order to be able to get something done, for sure, that you have to have something really impressive, really to show to somebody. So it's like, so every time you think about that, and 102, that ever since you were a kid, for sure, you're always 102. Why is it that your parents used to always think that was so cute? Every time they looked at you, and like, you would always remind them of something. Like, that right there is supposed to be you right there. And how are you recognizing that in that picture right there? Well, just because, you just woke up from a nap, and you were not fully awake, to where you were able to recognize what all that was going on. But like everybody might say that, one morning you wake up, and 102 is to where you wake up one morning, and then somebody says to where that they greet you by, that they, there's a greeting, like like they say hello, good morning, or something like that, and how are you, or something like, you read so nice, or something like that, all that niceness, right? But anyway, but I thought I'd go ahead and talk about that, but talk about for, Made in America. But anyway, thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day.